Hey, welcome to another episode. I've switched over brands. Psychic medium Tammy Schuster is already joining us. Hey, Tammy.
Hey, hi.
Hey, so yeah, we switched it over. Instead of Josh Can Explore, we're just going to call this the Paranormal Exploring Podcast because that's all I'm going to talk about.
Nice.
I thought for a second, I'm like, we'll talk about some other stuff, but I got going the other day with it. I'm like, no, that's stupid. Let's just talk about the paranormal stuff because that's honest to God what everybody wants to hear.
That's true.
And I actually listened to your podcast this past week. That was cool. You're talking about some of the stuff going on in your house.
Oh yeah, everything that goes bump.
What are some of the things, just so if anybody wants to check out your podcast, Angels Awakenings and Afterlife, you're talking about some crazy things.
Yeah, we get things all the time, and I try not to bring things into my house, but it doesn't always work. I got a metal rod from Seven Gables investigation here, and like in that room, there's always banging, but I refuse to get rid of this metal rod that I found during one of our Up North Live ones.
What's the significance of the rod?
Well, it was supposedly at the area where the witch had cursed the land, and then the rumor was that someone lived there, killed their family, and then burnt the house. Well, we went out there on the investigation, and there was nothing in the ground. And so this is all on my website. You can see the pictures. I'm standing there, nothing's there. And I found the foundation that hadn't been found. And someone asked me, how do I feel? And I said, well, the lady feels good to know that she's not a witch. And this rod came up out of the ground right in front of us. So I checked with the DNR to see if I could have this rod or not. And they said, since it wasn't like vegetation or something, I could.
Right.
But like this thing, it took us like almost 5 hours and sledgehammers to get this thing out. So there's no way that it should have come up out of the ground. So I brought it home because I was sure it was for me and had someone straighten it out. And it's pretty cool. But yeah, we get things all the time. Like people that stay here, the kids will see things, banging, pictures being turned. A client got freaked out because my grandma always turns my pictures because I used to turn hers. Mm-hmm. And he was in a reading and his face and I'm like, what? And I turned around and looked and my picture was crooked. Well, it was driving him crazy. So he got up and straightened it. And I just chuckled to myself thinking, yep, that ain't going to stay very long. And we get going a little bit longer. And all of a sudden his face again was just like white as a ghost. And I turned and the picture was crooked again. And it's not a little picture. It's a big picture.
That's
so
crazy.
The story behind that is because my grandma was OCD and every Sunday we would have dinner there and I would always go and turn her pictures. And the joke was sit at the dinner table and wait how long before she fixes all her pictures. So She does it to me now.
So that's crazy. So going back to the Seven Gables thing, what is that place? Because I think we've talked about it. I've heard you say what that is, or I've heard you say those words, but I don't think we've ever actually talked about what exactly it is.
So it's property in Dansville, Michigan, and it's supposed to be like one of the most haunted place there is. I don't know how many acres and acres. Now there's been body dumps back there and different things like that. So there's a history, but supposedly, you know now doing this, that with everything, there's so many stories and so many legends. And supposedly the last person across the gate, if you go to this property, things happen like accidents or things on the way home because this witch cursed the land. Well, we did catch some creepy pictures of this really tall guy with a pointed head come out of a tree. Mm-hmm. But the legend was really wrong because the house didn't even actually exist beyond the gate. It was before the gate. And like I literally walked right to it and found it. They led me right to it on day 2 of it. Because, I don't learn enough. I have to go back.
Right. That's crazy. So do you think that's a place we'll be able to do at some point with the 100%
series? We should, because we caught a picture, like I said, and you can see it on my website. It started as a black. I just had that sick feeling like something wasn't right. And it started as a black hole and it kept growing and growing and growing in front of us till there was like something, I kid you not, at least 7 foot with a pointed tall, like, and the arms were and I'm just like, we need to go. It was creepy.
That's crazy. Yeah. Tammy,
it was daylight.
I want to see that. It was daylight?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, her website's tammyschuster.com. And then to hear the stories of the things that go bump in the night in her house, search the Angels Awakenings and Afterlife podcast. Now link it on this one and on the video description of this, because I drove home from work the other day listening to it, and I was just like, I got home and I sat out in my car for another like 10 minutes listening to it. It's really good.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of crazy things that happen here.
so we're kind of talking about, I know we want to go through one of the investigations every time we talk, and in a little bit we'll go through the jail investigation, because that one, in my opinion, when you look at the videos and the video plays, by far the most underrated video on the YouTube channel, because the amount of
100%.
stuff that happened there, that was the first time we had like, I mean, we had a lot of stuff happen at Westwood, but this was the first time it was, to me, it was super obvious. Like, all of our equipment except for the flashlights started going off, but we'll get into that in just a second. I wanted to bring something else up, and I know we didn't even talk about this as we're talking about places to go for this second season, because you and I think, are on the same page. Like, we definitely want to start filming for a second season
Yes.
relatively soon, probably within the next few months or something.
Yep.
Do you remember when we did the Cottonwood, the second night we had that, I called it the paranormal party, but we had everybody over.
Yes.
And we had a
Yes.
gentleman in there, super nice guy, who was telling us about a place in downtown
Yes.
Traverse City.
That hotel where people would come to kill themselves.
Yes, and I mean, he got into descriptions where, and I know this is going to be really dark for you guys, so if you're thrown off by this dark stuff, I apologize. Just mute us for a couple seconds. But they said when they went in to check that hotel, they still had extension cords
Yes.
hanging from some of the light
Yes.
fixtures in there. They
Yes.
just would put them down and leave up the what they used to hurt themselves.
Yeah, and I'd never heard that story, but supposedly it was really cheap, and that's what people, I mean, it was known for people would rent a room to take their life.
And I don't think anybody's investigated that place. So
No, but we have a hookup there.
we do. And I think that's something that we want to push for a little bit this year. If we can't do it this year, maybe next year. But I think that's one of those where when we're doing these investigations, yeah, we want to go to the places that everybody's heard of. And we definitely want to experience them for sure.
Yes.
Like when you think of places like Mansfield or Waverly Hills or something like that. But we also want to throw in more regional places that you've never heard about. Kind of what we did with Westwood and the old jail. And then when we go up by you, the Cottonwood, and then hopefully this place, and even Seven Gables, and all sorts of cool places.
Yes.
So, yeah, I just thought, for some reason that just popped in my mind. Actually, I have a bag of the strawberry covered pretzels that his store sells, and that's what reminded me of it today. Before I came out to the studio, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about this. I gotta ask Tammy. So the Williams County Jail, if you guys want to watch the video, it's up on the Paranormal Exploring YouTube channel. Just go to paranormalexploring.com or search What's a Josh, and you'll see it. It's the old Williams County Jail. I think that's how we have it labeled out. And it's a jail in Northwest Ohio. That's where I'm at. If you're not familiar with either of us, Tammy is in Northern Michigan. She came down last July. We took 2 days, and we spent all of our energy on everything.
We did a lot.
Yeah. Oh my God. So we did the school, and we talked about that last time when Tammy was on. And then the next night we took a trip out to Bryan, Ohio, and we went to an old jail. Now the jail had gone through a lot of renovations, but it was abandoned in the 90s, and the sheriff's office left it all together in like 2014. They moved, they had their offices there, and then they moved to another section. So it's been sitting empty for almost, that's going to be going on 10 years here shortly.
Yeah, but it's in pretty good shape. I mean, well, we were coming from the school to this, so like it was like a mansion.
We got in there, and there weren't any bathrooms. Well, there were
that was
many
the only
toilets,
bad
but
thing.
nothing we could use. But they did have air conditioning on in there, which was kind of nice, and we had a little bit of power, which was nice. When we went to Westwood, it was basically a structure that had nothing. I mean, I'm surprised we were allowed to go in there, to be honest with you, because that place is dangerous. But you know, it's funny is Zach and I were actually watching a little bit of the Williams County. We started off with like the first few minutes, and I had to do something, so we kind of stopped watching it. But I forgot about the Christmas room, because we had so many things going on that night. So when we first come up, and I thought it was interesting because on the video, I don't feel as though the edits that I did really showed how well you pointed out what you were feeling, but you didn't even barely got out of the car. And Austin, who's the guy who we're able to go through to get some of these properties, you go up to him and you say, what is this about a Christmas room?
Yeah. I'm a Christmas freak.
So how were you?
He didn't know. Like he was like, I don't think there's a Christmas room in there.
And that was the second time, actually, because the night before you had asked him at Westwood, why am I told not to be happy? Or
Yeah,
something
and
like
about
that.
the hangman on the chalkboard that we found later.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, when we came up and you said something about the Christmas room, how were you feeling it? Like, what were you feeling when that came onto you?
Well, I just heard look for the Christmas room, something about because I asked for validation before we go in. So it's just them helping me so that I can connect. Because then when you go in and you see it, it's like, I got this. So for me, it's a connection.
And when you watch the video, you see Austin taking Jason and I around, and he even says, he goes, I don't know what she's thinking of as far as the Christmas room. He goes, maybe it's in here because the actual owner of the building uses it for storage. And he said, well,
Yeah.
there might be Christmas stuff in here. Well, in that room, he said that there wasn't. And I looked around a little bit before you came in. And then we all had this big moment because we found ourselves into the old dispatch center where
Yes.
we didn't go into to begin with. And I look on the floor, and
And
what
there
is
was Christmas stuff.
a big pile of Christmas stuff. And I don't recall, I'm going to say this. We didn't get much action there, but in fairness, we didn't spend a whole lot of time back there because we had so
No,
many
we
other things.
didn't, but I think it was more for me, because like the school, it's like when I go to these things, give me something when I'm standing outside. So I rely on so for me, it like kick starts me.
Okay. So it's like priming you up and everything for the night is basically what it is.
Them helping me. Yeah.
So we go through that. We're shocked. I want to say we leave the REM pod there for a little while. Again, not a whole lot happened. Then we start going around a little bit, and we make our way to the upstairs where solitary is. And
Which
obviously,
is one thing I said outside too, was upstairs, down the hall, all the way to the left.
right. And yep, when we're standing at the end of the hallway, all the way to the left was that second solitary cell. And that is where you got that headache, right?
No, I got it in the first one. The second one is where you got the information when they told us lockers, bowling, when I said, we need to know where to go. It's getting late. Nothing's happening. And then you started with storage, lockers, bowling.
Right.
You just started saying things. And basically we had been downstairs. So you had the headphones on and you're just saying this, which meant nothing to you, but we knew immediately where we needed to put you after that session.
So to back up a little bit, what happened was we went upstairs where the solitary cells are at. And I want to say this was towards the middle of the night when we did this Estes method session. Prior to that, and we'll get back into this in a little bit, but prior to that, Tammy had been up there writing on the walls, getting headaches, and it was just an overall dark feeling. But later on, what we're talking about now is when we started the Estes method, all night, it seemed like the spirits were avoiding me and they were messing with you. Like you would, again, feel sick and things like that. So when we did the Estes method in the that cell, which we were kind of pointed in that direction, and we'll get back to that in a second. As Tammy was saying, I was coming up with words that referred to an area downstairs. And if you're not familiar with the Estes method, we have our headphones on, and they're noise canceling headphones. If you're watching the video, the headphones that I'm wearing, it's exactly what we're wearing. It's plugged into a spirit box, which sifts through different radio channels. And as you're going, words will come at you. And I don't know if sometimes you intuitively just hear them or you're physically hearing them or how it is. But what's crazy is when they really start making sense. And the questions that you were asking, and at the same time, you had my handcuffs and you were ratcheting them around to really irritate the spirits. And as you did that,
and it worked.
You watch the demeanor in me again.
Yes.
I'm not hearing them, but you can see my demeanor getting darker and darker. And then you're starting to ask, where are you? Or I forget the exact questions you asked. Yeah. But again, we indicated bowling, storage,
lockers.
There was something else that I had said.
I don't remember because it was just crazy.
Yeah, and this was the first time I think the Estes method really started picking up for us. It's like only the second time we did it. So all that made sense because remember how I said this guy that owns this building uses this place for storage? Well, downstairs, there is the old inmate visitation area. He stored a bunch of bowling pins.
Yes.
Who would have? I mean, that makes no sense. I mean, those words to come out of my mouth in that place, and there's bowling. Who would think there's bowling pins in an old jail? Who would think there's
Christmas stuff there?
Right. And when's the last time you saw a bowling pin other than a bowling alley?
I can't say that I have.
Right. So the fact that that was there, and then when you bring up storage and lockers, so again, prior to this, when we were going on our initial, I'd say our second tour, the time when Tammy
Yeah.
was walking around with us, we came into these small lockers that were right across from the cells on the first floor of the building. There's only three or four large cells down there. And I
Yeah.
remember Jason asked, what did I think those were? And I said, I think they're property bins or storage lockers.
Right. Because there was
Said those
two. There
exact
was
same
storage
words.
bins and lockers.
Right. And they said those exact same words
Yes.
during the Estes method. So that pointed us downstairs. And when you're watching the video, you see that when they locked me down into that cell, it's right across from the storage lockers, kind of near the bowling pins, down the hall from the bowling pins. And you guys are running up and down the hallway from the bowling pins back to where I was. That's where the K2 really went crazy.
We were having fun. You weren't, but we were.
It was interesting for sure. We had the K2, the oh man, the cat balls, the cat toys. Those were really going crazy all night.
Yep.
I didn't catch on the surface any EVPs, but as I learned from the Cottonwood videos, there might be footage out there that I just didn't hear or catch. There might still be something. If anybody catches it, let us know. But that's when we had that big kind of peak of the night, is when after that Estes method session, we actually followed what was being told to us. We went down there and got all this activity.
Yeah.
So, and the cigarettes. Remember, you guys, you and Jason, and I didn't see this.
It pushed one in.
They had a cigarette kind of popping out of a box, because I figured I'm going to buy a pack of cigarettes and we'll see if that does anything with the spirits. By the way, when I bought the cigarettes, it was the most awkward thing, because I've never bought cigarettes in my life. And the woman at the carryout was looking at me like, who is this idiot? And what is he trying to do? Because I think I bought the weirdest cigarettes that nobody ever buys. They were like some weird Winston, like they were like some weird Winston. I don't know, like I don't know what they were. But anyway, backing up a little bit further, because I guess we kind of started in the middle point, but we were downstairs and we did our solo sessions and everything like that. And I don't know that anything significant, in my opinion, happened with the solo sessions. After the initial tour, I went to solitary, did mine. You were downstairs in a cell, and Jason was right around the corner from you in the interrogation room.
Yeah.
Caught a couple orbs, could have been dust. I mean, in fairness, if there's something that can be debunked, we're always going to bring that up.
Yeah.
You did hear stuff behind you in the cell.
Yes.
But as far as when you compare it to the other things that happened in the night,
no, nothing.
It wasn't a whole lot. So shortly after that, I want to say that's when we I think we went upstairs. You got the headache. We reconvened downstairs.
Yeah. And the cat balls, remember the cat balls and when we reconvened downstairs, they were going crazy on the counter.
And that's when we kind of came to the conclusion that the spirits were running from me. They were messing with you. And I'm not really sure if we ever came to how they felt towards Jason.
No.
But that's what we had noticed. And we had said, and the idea was, okay, let's go upstairs back to the solitary. We'll do an Estes method this time. Let's do it under, I think it was me under handcuffs or something like that.
You were under and I had the handcuffs and I just kept clicking and I was pissing them off.
And as we were talking about that, we were down in what would have been their old booking office where the employees would be. And it's like every time we started talking about what we were going to do, all the cat balls would light up. And I'm not talking about just the one, both of them.
Yeah. And we were nowhere near it. And you're talking a concrete floor. So there's no vibration to make those things go off.
Right. And we did notice one thing. I think you brought it up. You said that they look like cop lights.
Yes.
And if the idea is that it was the former officers that were helping us out while we were in that office to go upstairs. I mean, it was like they were pointing us in the direction. When we talked about going upstairs, all the light bulb, like all of them went off.
They kept going off.
And they guided us through the night. It was really kind of crazy.
Yeah. I would say for Jason, though, at the end, like when we had you locked up and, that our energy changed and like Jason was confrontational. I mean, like you could just tell that whoever the inmate that was out there with us scaring you, like you could just tell the energy. I think it did get to Jason a little.
Yeah. And he definitely fell into it more so as the night went on. He got more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So from that booking office and all those lights, that's what sent us upstairs to do the Estes method. I want to say that you tried it first and then it was me. And then we came downstairs. That's when everything went absolutely nuts. and then the energy just died. And you and I said
Yes.
it at the same time.
Yes.
It just like all the K2 was going off, everything was going crazy, and then just silence. And you see this in the
Yeah.
video, you hear it in the video.
Yeah, because like we felt the energy, and then all of a sudden, like we were just there was nothing. It was just like we were standing there and it was just us at that point.
So with your experience in all this, what do you think caused that? Were they just done with us?
Probably, like, they figured they gave us enough and they were done. But you made a comment too, though, however, like, because you had a cat ball in your cell and we had one cat ball outside and
Yeah.
everything was happening. And this was just before the energy died. You made the comment that if that cat ball goes off, I'm done. Remember? But
Right.
yours didn't go off and ours was going off outside. And so we videoed it as you no longer said that. And it was shortly after that. So maybe it was because they felt like they gave you enough. I don't know, but it was like an instant. It was an instant cold, and they were gone.
Yep, it was crazy, you guys. So if you get a chance to watch it, it's going to be the Williams County Jail. I believe we pushed it out sometime in October. It's definitely worth checking out from start to finish. And as we keep going, while we're waiting for the next season to start and those videos to come out, I'm going to keep releasing smaller clips because if you don't have an hour to watch it, you can watch 3 minutes of when this and that, the other thing happened. Now at the very end of it, or I should say even at the very beginning of it, we brought up the stories of Bryan, Ohio, and what happened and who was housed in this jail. So any crimes committed that would have been jailable in Williams County, they would have gone to that jail back in the day. There was a few murderers. I had dug into it a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
That there was the I can't remember the guy's name who murdered the librarian
Yeah,
way
he
back.
stabbed her a whole bunch of times.
Yeah. There was another person I believe who killed his parents. And you even said when you were upstairs that you felt like it was somebody did something to somebody's head, like shot him in the
Yeah,
head
like
because you
shot
took a
him or
headache.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
While we were there, were you able to pick up on who that might be beyond it was somebody who was shot, or were you picking up on any of the other rumors? Because there was the rumor of the little girl that was around there somewhere.
I didn't get
Um,
the little girl at all.
yeah, I don't think we even experienced anything with that.
No, I don't
Um,
think there was anything that would have been her.
Okay, interesting. As far as like the inmates that were housed there, were you able to pick up anything more?
Well, definitely, because reading that wall and touching their words, like I
Yeah.
just feel, I just felt trapped and, I needed to get out of there. And so I think, and I even said to you, I said, I think I felt like them, think about it. They spent how much time in just that little room. And,
Right.
I had to step out in the hallway. I couldn't even stay in there. But reading the words, when they were asking for forgiveness for the people that they had killed, and, I had to get out of there. It was not good.
Yeah, and it's funny about that too, or not really funny, but interesting is when Austin had originally walked us through that, he pointed out, he goes, we've been peeling back some of the paint. So it's not like that was something that was even written in there in the last 2 decades. That could have been
Yeah.
any time since the most recent renovation, which may have been done in the 50s or 60s, which I
Yeah,
think is
because it was quite intense to read that and then, to put yourself in that position.
yeah. So it was an insane night for sure. I want to say that when we left that night, I didn't feel the same way
No.
that I did when we left Westwood. I was just tired because we had to drive so far.
Except when I didn't sleep that night simply because when I went back to my room, remember when I went to walk in, there was a bowling pin sitting by my door.
I
And it
forgot
was like,
about
I
that.
sent you a picture. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me right now? So I didn't sleep a whole bunch that night because I stayed at the bed and breakfast, and I'm sure it was there the night before, but I didn't notice it. But after all of that, and then walking in and going to unlock my door, and I look down and there's a bowling pin sitting there, I didn't sleep real well that night.
I mean, a sign is a sign. That's weird. Who puts a bowling pin? And I'm not knocking the people that run the Mill House. It's a really cool place to
It is
stay.
a really cool place.
But I mean, that night when I would say the big thing that drew us, the big sign that we had all night were the bowling pins. And then to come back,
Yeah.
what do you think the significance of that is?
I don't know. They were there the night before, but I wasn't looking for them, I'm sure.
Right.
But I just didn't sleep that night. It was like, it's not that I don't know. I just, after seeing that bowling pin, I'm like, are you flipping kidding me? And I just didn't sleep.
So the jail, something you would do again, or
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they're different areas. I wish they would let us down in the basement. In the video, if you watch it, I found some old clips of the mural that Austin was telling us about. An inmate down in the basement actually had drawn something up on the wall, and you
Yeah.
can't get down there because I think that's where it bridges into the actual house that somebody lives in.
Yeah.
But
Next door.
there are areas of this jail that we weren't allowed in that would be really cool to get into at some point. Maybe he'll open it up a little bit.
I would definitely go back there. The school, I'm not so sure. Just because of not so much just the darkness, but just the school itself.
So actually, I mean, as we're talking and kind of circling back completely around to places we want to go, the company that Austin runs, they do other places, and they've got another school. And I saw
Yeah.
pictures of it. I think is it called Middle Point, Ohio? It's out in the middle of nowhere, similar to what we did. You can actually, the place isn't going to collapse around you like the Westwood School was. So that's what I want to look into.
Yeah.
Um, and did I tell you about my dream?
Yeah, you did. And that's
So
kind of crazy.
yeah, so for anybody that doesn't follow on Facebook, it was a couple nights ago. So if you haven't been following what's been going on, my back's been messed up for a little bit, and I'll blame it on the muscle relaxers, but it was getting better, and then I tweaked it again, and I wasn't taking the muscle relaxers until a couple nights ago. I'm like, I'll just pop one before I go to bed, and maybe that'll help me when I wake up, and it did. But it gave me the wildest dreams, and one of the coolest dreams I had was that you and I were filming our season. We went up to this school that was bigger than Westwood. I'm talking like if you've ever seen pictures of Waverly Hills, or even if for those of you who know the Traverse City, Grand Traverse Commons, the old
Yeah, the
hospital
state
up in northern
hospital.
Michigan, how big that big administration building is. Now think of 3 of them, but shaped to where there's a horseshoe driveway. So 1, 2, 3. I know you can't really see me on my camera what I'm doing, but you pull in and you've got basically a building in front of you, a building to the left, a building to the right. So this was what was in my dream. That was what we were going to explore. I think it was just you and I think there was a third person. I don't know who it was, but we always do a third person.
Yeah.
We get in. I remember I was disappointed because you know how I get when things interrupt the video, when things interrupt the plan. And I was irritated because whoever was running this building had rented out other sections to other people. And I'm like, well, what the hell? How are we going to do this? Because we're trying to do our investigation. You got other people running around. Well, it was Halloween, and they're all having Halloween parties. So as you're walking down the hallways of this old school that's about the size of the Grand Traverse Commons, you're seeing all these people walk around in these goofy Halloween costumes, scary Halloween costumes, and it merged into one big Halloween party. And you're still out front trying to do the initial thoughts. But it was just really weird. Then my dog woke me up, and I'm like, that was cool. Even if we
Yeah.
can't investigate a place like that, what a party.
Yeah, no kidding.
So
Well,
yeah,
maybe someone knows a school that exists like that.
there's
That would
gotta
be
be.
creepy.
I know around the Toledo area, the old schools that they had for Toledo Public Schools, like Libby and all those, they were built super big like that, but not to the point where you have a big like kind of horseshoe, not where you'd have it to the front and to the sides. I mean, you would have to be home to like, I don't even know, like a few thousand students, like
Yeah.
maybe even more than that. Just crazy. But anyway, I figured I'd share that with you. I don't know if that's just the that's a sign of something, or if that was the muscle relaxers just giving me something fun.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Oh, but anyways, I don't know. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to the adventure that we just recently had out at the jail, or I don't know if we covered it all, or
I think that's good. Like we did, it was a good night. I mean, I would definitely go back there. But I think there's a lot of other places to go, and
oh
so
my
yeah,
gosh.
I'm excited for the next places.
Yeah, I mean, you think about all the places that all the other ghost shows do, and that everybody knows about, and the places that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
It's pretty intense to think about how many different areas you can explore, experience, and share with everybody. And that's really what we want to do. To me, it's more about sharing the experience so you guys can see. And that's why we shoot the videos the way we do, because if you want a big production, you know where to get them. But if you want something smaller and you're getting it, my point of view for the most part.
Yeah, and I just love the fact that we don't hold anything back. I mean, we
No.
do like it's just if we're scared, and if it's like it's so funny because I like watching you trying to debunk everything,
Right.
and I love it when you can't.
Right.
Like you number one want to debunk everything, and then when you can't, you light up like this little kid, and then all of a sudden the fear comes in because then you realize you can't debunk it. So you go from being excited that you can't to like, oh crap,
Right.
So
And
it's pretty cool to watch.
that was Cottonwood in a nutshell right there. And we'll go over Cottonwood because there's a lot of stuff that didn't make the video that we kind of, I think we gotta put a bow tie on. But you're right, because when you try to explain it, and I do that around my house every so often because I'll be sitting on the couch and I'll see a shadow out of my left eye. And I'm seeing it, it's like it's crossing in front of some lights out on my back porch. I'm like, well, that was weird. I mean, if it's enough to get you to turn your head, that's something, right? I mean, it's gotta be. So anyway, Tammy, thank you. I know you're busy. You got some other stuff going on today, but thanks for jumping on and recording with me again.
You're welcome.
Angels, Awakenings, and Afterlife podcast.
Yes.
I've been listening. I'm glad you brought it back because it's one of those things every week that I look forward to. You release new episodes on Mondays or Tuesdays?
Mondays. Yep. This Monday I'm gonna be talking about the taboo subject of death, people who fear it and different things like that. So
okay, good deal. All right, well, thank you, Tammy. I appreciate it. All right, well, that was super cool. I always like having psychic medium Tammy Schuster on. So if you're wondering about our videos, I don't know if I already mentioned it or not, you can watch them at youtube.com/whatsajosh. You can go to paranormalexploring.com and watch everything. If you really want to have some fun, if you get some time, watch them from the beginning. The playlist is called Paranormal Exploring, or Getting Freaked Out with Paranormal Exploring, something weird like that. But if you start with the very first one that I did, it was last April. That was at the cemetery at Wolfinger, Providence Park. That's when I had my audio recording device tip over, which maybe I'll do. Maybe next week I'll run through that one with you. Tammy wasn't there with me for that one, but I was definitely alone on that. It was so freaky, so freaky. We start with that one, and then there are a few others that I do solo, and then Tammy joins me for one that we did over at the Shops at Carson Block, which is a store down the street from me. And then we went over to Providence, which is an old ghost town. And from there, I want to say that we went to that cemetery again, the same one that I did at Wolfinger. And then we did the two big ones. So it's worth watching them in order because as things continue to happen, our reactions get different throughout the season. And keep in mind, we're new at all this. Like, I've never done a podcast before. I've never done a video series before. I've always been a music radio guy. And that's how Tammy and I met when I did morning radio up in Northern Michigan. She would come on the show, do psychic readings, and I would just offer a few haha funny jokes, maybe not even haha funny. I'd just say something to be heard. And then we became really good friends since then. But then to be able to reconnect and do all this stuff, it's really been cool. So I hope you can enjoy it, watch it. Let me know what you think. And of course, you can always get at me on Twitter at What's a Josh, youtube.com/What's a Josh, Instagram, What's a Josh, TikTok, What is a Josh? The O is a 0 there because somebody already has my handle somehow. And Tammy Schuster, of course, go to tammyschuster.com or in the podcast catcher that you use, just type in Angels, Awakening, and Afterlife, and you can check out her podcast. It's very addicting. So with that said, I will talk to you, I don't know, maybe next week or something like that. We'll talk more ghost stuff. If you got a good story, I want to hear it too, though. JoshCanExplore@gmail.com is the way to get a hold of me. Have a phenomenal week, day, night, whatever it is. Stay out of trouble. I'll talk to you next time.